Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Ken at Tortoise Capital.
Oh
This is
man.
the Sunday Sunday morning session for Creativity 202, December 4th. Lesson probably 25 or lesson 24, session 25 for the Euros. The topic is the gamer, so I'm looking forward with great interest to that one. And I want to get us started with a quick check in from the team in the order that I see you on my screen, starting with Chun Long. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. All well here. Hard to believe in December already. I hope.
Yeah, we started this thing in June. It seems like yesterday, if I'm being honest. I'm all good here. We had our first soccer session yesterday. Like an idiot, I overdid my warm up and hurt my own knee before the session, so I'm limping around like a three-legged cow. Not a pretty sight, but I'm well supported by some of my local players, one of whom showed up out of nowhere. She's getting her master's degree in child psychology from Kansas University, is student teaching back at our high school, and saw my note and swung by to reconnect, and it was awesome. We had a lot of fun. Ernie, how are we doing?
Good morning and good afternoon. Doing well. Everything is good here in St. Louis and um, another good lesson. So I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Sunal, how are you this morning?
There, good morning and afternoon, Kieran. All good. Starting to feel Christmassy, apparently, out there. Not here yet. We'll get the decorations up, I promise. But we're all good.
And Jeff?
Yeah, all's going well. It's one of those, it was a tough day in a way. It's one of those, it's that time of year where the sun goes down. I think the sun sets about 3:50 over here, and it was a dark gray day anyway, so not much sunlight today. So yeah, it's just that kind of time of year. But no, we went out yesterday and checked out like some other villagey sort of Christmassy areas. There's like for Christmas festivals and stuff that I'd not experienced before about how the Victorians did it and stuff, which is quite cool to experience. So yeah, that was very different. But no, all good over here. Oh,
Yeah, I was on TikTok yesterday, and some kid had a little short video on. He woke up and all he could hear was Mariah Carey singing a Christmas song, and it just, no matter where he went, he could not escape. And I sort of know exactly how he feels. It's like the equivalent of the Hallmark Channel for your ears,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he had all my sympathies. All I want for Christmas is the end of this song.
Yeah.
Good morning, Tom Hardison. How are we doing,
Good,
Tom
well, good
Hardison?
morning. Yeah, it's a beautiful 28 degrees and snow falling. First good snowfall of the winter, so it is here. And I echo the farther north we go, the less light there is every day for just a few more weeks. Turning that
Yeah.
corner feels good.
And good morning, Tom Sullivan. How are we doing?
Uh, uh, Good morning, good afternoon. I'm doing okay. It's cold. Coyotes were out last night. I don't know how they survive out in the cold like that, but they must have been busy. Aho.
Yeah, we got a pack of about 20 that lives in our county and around our house. They're always out terrorizing the neighbors' dogs over at the farmhouse. You can hear them as they circulate in the barking of the dogs. Uh, and good morning, Kian. How are we, sir?
Hey, good evening, even. Good
There.
morning. Yeah, lots of excitement today. With this true storytelling, and then later with the England game, and it's been quite an adrenaline-filled week when you're watching FIFA World Cup. Yeah, I mean the last games of the group, especially we were kind of rooting for Japan in that group with Spain, Germany, because we have friends and that was that was a roller coaster ride of a game, I'm sure. And then also you're looking at Spain and Germany and all the permutations. Whew, that's enough excitement for me. But anyway, to cut this short, it's great to be here. I hope.
Hey, I want to commend you for getting your charts posted in the room. Once you get going on that, it gets easier each time. But getting that first couple going is always a challenge. So I commend you on getting all that done. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the room, and off we go. The gamer. Jinlong.
I waited. Green, what are you doing? Okay, anyway, look for my nose. My last week, word of last week is giddy up from the sun. I did live trading 5 days last week. I made a 10-hour loss. It's actually 1 hour loss. It's just because, the default size is 10 times larger than what I should trade. So I was in a hurry to, push the buy button and get a 10-hour loss. So I changed the default size to 5 share, increment 1 share. So that could resolve the issue now. What I found out still difficult for me to hold winner trades. Now, it's not I didn't take a good entry, but when the trading developed, the fear of loss come out, and then I quickly move my stop to no loss. Then, I get out, and then the trade become maybe 10, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 hour. So last week, I get a 10-hour loss, never get a more than 1 hour winner. That's how I lost money last week. I try to take collapsing dragons. As I said last week, I have difficult to take collapsing dragons. I try a couple of times. I gradually get there. Still need to deal with negative, depressive feelings. Even my loss is really small. So like a Friday, my net loss is less than $5. My actually loss less on the commission is only $1. But what I notice, all those negative or depressive feeling come out. So I have to deal with that. An interesting dream, yes, I think it's yesterday or the day before, can talk about his dream. And last night about the swing trading session, it's a long session. Can you give me a headache? Oh, it's really a headache when I listen to the swing trading framing, how you look at all the time frames or setups. But interestingly, this morning I get a dream. what exactly the dream is, I forget. It's probably about treating. There's 3 part of the treating. I really try to practice the second part, and the scenario change a little bit. When I get up, try to remember the dream. What I remember is what I talk about. 3 part of that. I try to practice the second part. I saw the second part is great, but whatever it is, I forget. That's the dream. I think the dream tell me I try to get something from yesterday's last night swing trading framing session. Today's exercise about MRB3, the aha moment. The first one is within a doji day, a small rainy day. There's a potential seminar trade. That's the first aha moment. Different time frame, trade noise very differently. The second one. The third one is, I in my trading have not paid much attention to William percent R. Should I look at that more? The second part of the exercise, develop a recipe for how to keep doing this. I think the multi-time frame, multi-lens analysis. That's it. What are the possible systemical way approach? Just multi-time frame analysis. Identify MMRV in different time frames. Yeah, I didn't get enough time to do the exercise, even though I watched that video before and I found out my Cornell notes. Still a lot of learning from that video, really like video. I need to do the exercise again right after this session.
I think there was an aha when there was a short garble of sunspot activity here in Kansas, and I didn't hear the aho, but it felt like there was an aho. Here we go. Tom Sullivan.
Seems like a lot of sunspot activity going on, but I wanted to go early because it was a rough week. I didn't get to this lesson a lot until the last day. Actually, this morning, since I've been up early. So, but I did. I mean, one thing I don't know as far as is on posting. I have Thinkorswim, and I try to do take a picture of the chart, and so I print it out, and I only get half of the chart. So I'm having a little issue technically on how to take a picture of it. Maybe I'll try to use it on Apple's computer and do a screenshot and try to get it done that way to be able to post the chart. As far as on my first thing, I want to say one of the questions was in in the after watching the video, it was the aha moment, and I think one of my aha the trip bringing through iframes and using the risk reward and the way to set it up seems like it's making more and more sense to me as far as targets and opportunities and risks. As far as the lesson, I mean, I think of it as a sum total of the last 5, putting all these previous from the twister to the predictor, the tweaker, the impersonator, and using them as your gamer. And I don't know, I never thought of it all like that, but as I think sometimes, I mean, even when I do things, or sometimes like I'll have in mind when I'm having conversations or with something of what somebody else would have said, and think, oh, how would it be? I should respond this way or something. So that's kind of like in the way we could use this for trading. And so when I was reflecting on this morning, I'm thinking of different traders and I mean, learning from Ken and the people that use say price levels and stuff like that, and maybe like I said last week, I got so much in my head that it was like not being able to use the beginner's mind, but using it as a gamer and being able to like at certain levels you might have more resistance than other levels, or and then use that in our trade framing, and makes a lot of sense. And to be able to be on both sides of the trade, or picture yourself on both sides of the trade, or if you to exit or enter and make a lot of opportunities. And I decided that I was going to trade the DIA. So one of the things I have to do at certain times of the day, because I may be going in and out of the truck and not being able to watch, I have to use the NMRB. So using that in Ken's system, it seems to relax me more. And using a DIA is a little smoother. I was trying to spy, and it was volatile. I think will versus endurance. So really, like I did Friday. I watched the day until about I think it was 2:15, 2 o'clock, which is like I don't trade. I mean, I just figured, the last half hour could get kind of crazy. So, I mean, because that's when the pros come in and they decide which way. After the beginning, it's usually people that have their I'll say retail traders are more involved in the opening, and then after about the first 15 to 30 minutes, and the pros come in, kind of lead the direction they want to go, and then after say the last half back in, and kind of give you a clue to what may be happening the next day. At least that's what I read in this book, which might have changed, but really trade too much. But the more I think about this lesson and the things, like, I need to practice more and think through the part at the end of a paragraph and think what may be going on next paragraph, just to get your mind creative as. And after a little loss, I might not want to get right back in because I can't reset quick enough. But you just get stopped out, and then you wait for the reentry. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm using I do watch for the chop because I don't want to get chopped up a lot. So I set my resistance to stay out of the chop and look for a good kata 2 if it's a reentry or a collapsing. But I did look at, you know what, I forgot my word what I said last week. And I didn't even understand what I said. My word was. So that's where I am. I'm
I am sensing an aho in there. Ernie.
I was thinking about and he really hit a nerve for me because that's sort of what I felt like I've been trying to do. I picked up another software thing on it's kind of working with Excel and investing and stuff, and I'm trying to learn that. But I feel like I'm trying to do too many things. I'm really glad that you use TC 2000. It's sort of I don't know how to describe it, but I understand it a lot easier than I do some of the other things. I use TD Ameritrade, and so I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. And I know that I was sort of exposed to TradingView, and that seems complicated. And then it's like I'm trying to do too much. You know, I probably ought to just learn one thing at a time. Stick with TC 2000 and work with that, I think. But so really it happened this week. Somebody told me that they I'm retired, and they were very surprised that I haven't taken any. Said, well, physically, I haven't is done to me as far as where my mind is. I've done a lot. My head has gone in places that I just haven't even imagined about, And so it's really, and talk about meeting and it's really an interesting year. And so as far as saying that I haven't traveled anywhere and met fellow travelers, that's not true. I really have. So thank you guys for all of that. And that's something that so it's an epiphany that I've had this week about taking this creativity course. And so I have been on a journey, and it's really thank you guys for that. And doing that and reading the text for this lesson. I was thinking that I hope the video is good, because I've never heard of Kriegspiel and I had no idea what this thing was about. So in looking it up and trying to find out what is Kriegspiel, it was interesting because I found out that you don't have to know the rules to play the game, because there's going to be an umpire that's going to set the game up for you and evaluate whatever you've decided to do. And so that's kind of interesting. The player prepares for the battle by doing, and then it's a roll determines the outcome. And so I thought, well, I think it would be, I don't know about being a player. I think it'd be more fun to be the umpire because when I was looking at the different websites and the people about the game, one man talked about his approach. Well, the reason why he liked playing the Kriegspiel, it was because the game is not like chess captured. To him, the lost, but in a battle and in war, there are consequences, serious consequences. You can die. And and I guess there may be others. Well, I'm sure that there are. I mean, they have organizations for this, and so it was fascinating to read about it. And I really, I thought about playing Saturdays or something where you can let them know that you want to play, and they'll help you set it up, and then an umpire will be assigned, and you can play it. But I really felt like I would be doing what they're doing, because they obviously take it very seriously, and I gained an appreciation for what the game was about, and so that was a fascinating thing to do, because, like I said, I had never. This was totally foreign to me, and I really didn't know how to approach it. Really interesting, kind of some of the recaps of the games. I guess the umpires get together and they send emails out about it, and so you could read about the results of it. So in South Africa, the umpire threw in a snowstorm, a surprise rare snowstorm. The players were really mad about that, and but I think the umpire, when he was talking about it, he just thought it was funny, and he was so it was interesting. And but I think the whole thing about it is that it's you have to be prepared. It reminded me, there was it's a weird show, it's kind of set up in Minnesota, and they talk about and stuff like that. And it's really funny, but it's it's a shoot 'em up and stuff. But I really it's just a different approach to a story. And in one of the stories they were talking, there was the good guys chasing the bad guys trying to save his girlfriend, and there's a shootout in parking lot of a hotel. In the middle of this fight going on, a spaceship appears and comes down there, and it's shining a light on all the people that are having and that. And I enjoyed the show because it was really funny, like out of left field. You know, what's a spaceship doing in this show? And so it was really interesting, but it really just kind of means you have. And so I guess investing is a lot like that. Hopefully we won't have any spaceships showing up, but it was it just came to my mind still, and that sort of thing. So it was interesting. The video really was good. It was really interesting because I got to, that was back in March. I think March 13th was when the podcast took place. So interesting because we're talking about EPAN and how the swing trade was being set up by the WMB3. So everything was all set up on that. And it was interesting because I was reading it. It was like we're B3. We're looking at a 3-minute chart, and we're seeing that we have the large bars. As a fact, I think had like 40% in that one day. And Ken's King could reach 360. Because that was March 13th. So I get to go back and see, well, how did it turn out? Well, it turned out. So it was really, it was interesting to really see how effective I did. I think just and it really did. It hit 360, but it was like in May. But everything turned out. But a swing trade as well. We had that. We were looking at a small bar. There was a lot of activity. I think we were looking at the. If I can remember correctly, I think that let's see. Had a two. Well, it was one of the that I found out that I hadn't thought about. One of my aha moments was seriously considering bar low as a minimum manageable risk box. And then Ken had said something about liking the RL10, and I really do have an appreciation for the RL10. That's something that I really like to watch. And I think when we went to I'm thinking that we went to the 1-minute chart and we saw the super pinch, which then led to a group of kata twos. I think there were like 3 kata twos, and then followed by a couple of collapsing dragons by the end of the day. There was a lot that happened in a small bar, and that was really fascinating to me to see and to appreciate that day trade led into a good swing trade, which is what I prefer trading. So I've really started looking at the day trades as a prelude to the swing trade, and I'm starting to. For me, that was an aha from that video, and I appreciated too. One of the things that Ken said that the jewel cutter is cutting the rock, and that the jewel cutter sees a diamond trying to get out. I really reflected on that, and it's like that it's there, so you hang in there and you're getting that diamond out of that rock. So I was surprised. how much was in that video. Actually, that video is just a representation of many of the podcasts, that there's just these little jewels in there, these little nuggets that that I get out of the different podcasts. So I very much appreciate that. So it was another good lesson for me, and thank you for that. Aho.
Kyun. Kyun.
The can trader today. I mean, I just want to thank you for that, because I think that's a great way to learn. You may have heard it before or not, but I thought I'll say it anyway. It's just incredible for me to be able to like shadow the trade, if you like, and because I've started looking at and using some of the symbols that you're trading. It's almost like it's like a customized coaching, if you like. So that's really tremendous. Just wanted to say that. So this week it's about a gamer and gaming, and I was a dream and FC Barcelona, and because to me that's kind of the link to game I really struggle with, probably doing the Krieg spiel. So some of the things I got out was one. The thing I had to work on really was psychology. I'm starting that. It's quite amazing that even though it's not real money and it's supposed to be a game, your buttons get pushed, and probably not in very good ways. I mean, not in good is probably not the word, but you're not executing properly in some of the ways. So that's quite a eye opener to me. And I started thinking, telling myself that, come on, man, you're not even properly trading like real money. So why is it, why do some of these things bother you? So arising from that, the article had something about the Edison effect, which was that each failed offer is one less thing to try. So I tried to reframe and reset myself to with some of these things, mental thoughts, which might help me. So that's one of them, the Edison effect. And then the second thing, which was quite interesting, was talking about a profession that values certainty and the importance of finding the single best solution and eliminating risk before committing to action. That the organization tends towards finding perfection rather than the volume of possible creative possibilities. So it primes the brain, says the article, or says Ken, but with anxiety and risk aversion, as opposed to happy, joyful creativity. So I think focus on working on not getting chopped out. I think Tom Sullivan, you referred to that. I had one trade was in Tesla, and I got chopped out like 3 times in, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're like minus 2.5 R down before you even start the day. I mean, that's a lot to make up. So I was obsessing with that this week and looking at options to deal with that, and studying my entries, and a bunch of things. I mean, that's so then the article says, how does Pep prime creativity? Pep is the coach of FC Barcelona at the time, and it says endless repetitions and having fun and social reinforcement by the group in every practice session. So I think that's a useful way or useful guideline to approach my dojo training in effect, to see if I is there element of fun and not have the kind of anxiety and risk aversion to it. So that's kind of what I got out of the article. And then on the exercise or the lesson itself, I like the title, like Finding Diamonds in the Rough, because in a way that's what it's about. You got to find the movers during the day. The intraday movers, do you have is it on, you have a list blinking and telling you what's changing? Do you do alerts, or do you just have lots of charts going around? I don't know. So that's what I got to figure out. And yeah, and now it gets a bit random, I guess. I just made notes as I went along on the video. What I got out of that, there are quite a lot of things. It's new to me. So like the WMB3 is not new to me, but it's just a reminder. The RL10 is a good guide. And then obviously it's about looking at different time frames to look at your trades, and that could help. I was watching the video was I need to give as much focus to the reward to risk as how to minimize a -1 hour loss, and -1 or minus a little loss. So that's what I got out of that. Then I thought in the Chevron, whoever posted that, how many are, instead of focusing on executing, and that I really resonated with, because that's what I'm trying to do. You want to get rid of all the noise, all the thoughts, and on the day, and just, at least for now, I'm trying to recognize the pattern, see the pattern, take the trade. But other things come into play, as I say, because after you get chopped out 3 times, you start thinking, okay, I'm minus 2.8 down now. I need a win here to restore the balance. And I don't want to be thinking like that. I don't even want to have that thought, because I'm just practicing, really. It's not even real money. And so why am I doing this, to myself? So that's something I gotta work on. And it's obviously psychology, and yeah, there's a whole area to look at for me. I think one of the biggest aha moments for me this week was thinking back to the histogram. So we got that last week, and it's the same one with the video this week. And I'm thinking, if I look at the histogram, and okay, so I should say that every day Ken has a STOD sniper trade of the day, and these are obviously big winners and whales, and of course I study them, and I said, okay, I want to this is I want to get one of these, and then how to get there. But then I realized, if I look at the histogram, the fat part of the bell curve is not in the whales, as the lesson was last week. It's something between the minus 0.5 hour to approaching 1 hour, probably less than 1 hour. think. Well, of course, you want to get the whales, right? But if the statistics is right, then most of your trades will be in frame, you know. But uh, made to, and then this kind of phrase came up to me that, the road to glory is strewn with burned out Chevrolets, so this came up to me, and burned out Chevrolets really from Bruce acting from Thunder Road. So you gotta have those wrecks, I guess, to before you get to the glory and keep going. Get a couple more reflections and other ahas this week. Is I was the video also reminded me, I did have this thought this week of maybe I should look at swing trading and look at different time, but I wasn't really sure I had the capacity for it to start a new work stream as I'm working on the the intraday stuff. Um, and the other thing, the other aha is trade at your pace. Pace. Let me talk about a bit. So one is in that you put symbol or two symbols a day. That's good, but the downside of that is that if that symbol doesn't move on the day, what are you going to do? For those who trade, the limited number of symbols, and obviously you want to sit there and not use that on Friday. The symbol or whatever it was I was looking at wasn't really moving initially, and I normally have, I don't know, like 8 to 10. And I really, I'm just gonna go with ones I'm moving and see what happens, because I was to do obviously there's going to be an issue of span of control and managing trades, but I think it's about pace. I liken it to, like, if sports is the difference between like football or soccer and golf, and I've played both, and I enjoy football a lot more because you are constantly in movement, and you are moving or anything. I did very badly. You think too much. It's too much to think. Even on the swing and everything, it's just too much to think. So anyway, so going forward, I guess, what game can I play to fool my mind? I think next week, and I think Sunal talked about fooling the mind last week, using that invert thing. So I thought that was a really interesting concept. That's what I probably need to do to fool my mind to stop all these thoughts. Yeah. So that's, let me see. Yeah, I wrote down the dojos for practice, to try wild things, to fail fast, and then try others. It's okay. I should not attach too much scores or any attachment to them, and just go with it. And I can always reset your balance. So against the objectives and your metrics according to what you've learned, I think. Yeah. So to end, since I quote Bruce Springsteen out with the end of that song, it says, "It's a town full of losers, and we're pulling out of here." It's invitation and very earthly journey. Hopefully, someone you love, and in search of a home you can feel a part of. I hope.
Jeff.
Hey guys, let me see here. Where to start? Just for I think all of us do. So don't. This is just the trader journey, right? And figuring this stuff out and figuring it out for yourself, is really what matters. And there's various ways, and there's a lot of little sort of guidance that we can give, along 2-3 hour down, like how can easily turn into, and then you realize later that, wait a second, that's not what I'm supposed to do. That's not like what the game plan is supposed to be going in, but that's what turns into the win. A win for the day would be if I can not lose money, or if I can come out with $1 or something like that, right? So yeah, I think you're doing all the right things, looking at the histograms, considering your trading approach, and like how the bigger side of that looks over many trades, right? And trying to keep that risk reward in check, because you take a couple 1 hour losses or fractional hour losses, and then it can just be the next 3 hour win is the one that kind of gets you to that break even, and then beyond, right? But it's thinking about that at the time is an easy way to sort of go into that about sort of keeping on top of the psychology and not letting that sort of get to you, and then just trying to do the thing for the next trade, and then figuring out what the span of control that should be right for you. And here's a little finding the mover, or trying to pick the mover, right? So let's say that you found a few of those things, a few of those markets or targets that you had in mind, and you got your eye on a few, and you've picked a few for the day. You're like, okay, I got to stick with my 1 or 2 for the day. Normally I'd keep my eye on 8, but I picked my 1 or 2, and I'm going to go with that. And we did that this week watching the World Cup.
Yep.
We were watching, what were the games? Do you remember? I can't remember. We watched quite a few games this week, but they had a couple on at the same time, and we were like, okay, that game is probably not gonna be that interesting, so let's watch the other game. And we did, and then
it was Japan and Spain. Sorry, in German. It was the game.
Yeah. And then somebody scored in that game. Oh shit! And that's like, yeah, no, we better keep watching. We'll keep watching this one. And, oh shit! They scored again, and the game we watched was really boring. Right? Nothing's happening. It's 0-0. And then we flipped it over. So, we changed after halftime or something, and after that, it went right back the other way. And it was like, oh yeah, Japan scored. Like, what? Missed it again, so you can turn into that thing where you're chasing the target that's moving just as it stops moving. So I mean, really, it all comes down to process. We're not going to all get it right every day. There's going to be frustrating days. It's really just kind of continuing to do the right thing, and then measuring those results over time, and remembering that the few trades I took today might not be, like, that's just a small part of the sample, even the minimum sample of say 30 or something like that, right? So yeah, it's just being aware, keep journaling, keep on top of it, and you'll start to figure out for yourself. And I'm sure Ken and all the guys here will have their own advice on that, and Son will probably too. So that was I wanted to get that out, because I could tell you, we were saying, I could tell you you're doing the trades and doing the work, right? Just by the way that you're talking about it, right? That's the experience. Okay, so back to the lesson a little bit. So Kriegspiel was in, like Ernie was saying, but the first thing I thought about was Spielplatz, which is when I go out to Switzerland and my buddy's kids want to go to the playground. That's the Spielplatz, and I was like, okay, Spielplatz. So that's definitely going to be play. And I think I know what Krieg is, but I'm not too sure. So I had to look that one up. So it's kind of like, it's war, right? So it's like war play. Like, okay, war play. That's kind of Ernie was talking about. And trying to relay them into, like, before I'd watched the video, it's like, how are we going to relate this through to trading, right? And so I started thinking, well, rather than the one-on-one, the two-player version that he talks about in the exercise, there's also sort of like the bigger sort of like Kriegspiel game, and it's about empowering the umpire to umpire in our world. And well, the umpire is a regulator, really. It's whoever's making up the rules in a way, right? So you got the regulator, and then you got the politicians that are basically influencing the regulator, and then you probably got the big institutions who influence. And I had a just brainstorming around various things that can happen in the world that change up everything that we might be doing, right? So there could easily be a situation where the powers that be decide that trading shouldn't happen anymore, or it shouldn't happen for those retail guys, because and it would be under the guise of
Protecting us from ourselves.
yeah, protecting us from ourselves, right? So it's always about trying to protect the little guy or protect mom and pop, and what they end up doing is it's usually a case of oh god, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Consequences in
Jurisprudence. Is that one?
Oh, there's jurisprudence. I was looking at after that. I was thinking about unintended consequences, right? So sometimes like your intention is good, you want to protect the little guy, but what you've actually done is taken away an option or an alternative. Anyway, so that's all just sort of like, it was weird that we were talking about that this morning. Right. So what if, some of the bigger buyers out there who are buying up, lots of something, FOMC, right? What if they are no longer doing that and they switch sides, and now they have to start selling? If their hand gets forced, so it's just like, it's that reality really of this stuff. It's kind of the bigger picture thing, and just really, really interesting. I'm going to keep this fairly short today, and I want to jump onto the trader exercise. And always great. And what my all of this was, there's always little aha moments or reminders of things for me these days, because I've been through so much of Ken's work. Fortunately, it's often a reminder of something that I thought about a while back, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I had that idea ages ago. I never did that. I need to go and do that. And it's weird again that sort of focused on WMB3, because I've been keeping my eye on WMB3 and a couple of little tweaks to it, just, I don't know, over the last maybe 2 months or so. And so yeah, I've kind of like, it's been on my mind, partially because of Larry Williams. R was in there, so I started paying a little bit closer attention to a few little things on that. And it's observationally, and this is like, this is all I've done so far on it. I've actually got a bunch of plans to probably do some thematic work on the WMB3 stuff, which for some reason I've done, although I could probably look in my TradeStation sort of like code workbooks and find some stuff that I have done on it. But at this moment, I'm like, geez, did I ever do that stuff? Anyway, anecdotally, just observing, US-based WMB3s for morning hooks on even just the big futures contracts. I was like, huh, well, I can anecdotally see this kind of playing out pretty well, quite a lot. I'm gonna have to pay closer attention to this. So I don't have any numbers on it yet, but I've been monitoring that for a while. So it was interesting that was an example from, sort of like the today. And then the other things for the trader exercises about, can you develop a recipe or how to keep doing this, and what are the systematic possibilities and the approach that you see. This is stuff all the time. I can't help it. I mean, this is just how my brain works. I mean, that is exactly what I do whenever I'm listening to anything or looking at a chart, or I could be listening to Ken, it could be a podcast, it could be not even watching the video, I could just be listening, I could just be looking at a chart like that's been posted, It's going to the STA events and to get guys there who have new ideas. Now I'm listening. Okay, how can I make a recipe for that and systemize that? And so yeah, that is just the stuff that that's just kind of how I work. So that's the sort of day in, day out stuff for me. But it's great because it kind of gets me going. And I ended up making, a whole bunch of notes just from going through, the video, half of which were things that weren't talked about on the video at all. It was just like that little trigger, to, okay, hang on a second. Of little, and it's always these days about prioritizing the list. It's like, okay, what needs to get done and what do I get to or want to work on next? So it's all great. And I really so appreciated and enjoyed the, sort of watching through the video and thinking through these concepts. Yeah, I think that's all for this week. I hope.
Sunal.
Yeah, hello. Don't know where to start. This will not be structured in any way, shape or form. I only got halfway through that video. So that's homework for me to do. Loads of different things, and I want to respect all of your time because I know that the World Cup is gonna, England's gonna kick off shortly. So from a gaming standpoint, if I recall the instructions were to take our lessons to date and put them together and blend them and what you can make of it. And game. And I'm thinking, if I reflect back on the years of trading, especially listening to Chunlong and Kyun, you start with twisting and riding on the intraday. That's just from the application standpoint, but Ernie, from your, I have a lot of choice. I've got a lot of really interesting things I want to delve into. Which one I'll start here, but there's another really shiny thing that's come in. So we start twisting, and then we buckle down and we pick one and we impersonate whatever the inspiration of that one is or was or continues to be. And then there's that multi-time frame thing that happens. So we blend, because once we see the pattern, take the pattern, or see the pattern, take the trade, manage a trade, exit, reset, and we've got this rhythm that we've developed, we then blend some of the other insights or the other items on the to-do list or the inspirations that come in. And then we start gaming and changing up with the environment. And I'll come back to that if I can remember to try and make this somewhat coherent. From a gaming standpoint, we mentioned Kriegspiel, and I'm like, nope, not going to war, not going to war. But if I think about it, from the exercises standpoint, what games are there where the rules keep shifting on you and changing? And I thought, in true Sonal style, I swear I am not a TV addict. I realize that pretty much every session we've had, I've talked about Squid Games and Hunger Games. And I don't know if you're familiar with any of them, but Squid Games, won't give you the whole plot, but it's based on getting a bunch of people together as adults to play children's games that they were aware of in their childhood, but the whole premise of what they thought were the rules have changed, And what's at stake is their lives and or livelihoods. Pretty gruesome, but there's a lot of game playing that happens in their experience. And also with the Hunger Games, which was pretty similar from a from an organization standpoint, and the way they selected the players, what they had them do, was constantly changing. And then I thought, well, if I do a quick Google search and put in games where rules can change, I wondered what might come up. And there was something called NOMIC. Apparently it's a game where players get to change the rules. And in order to change the rules, what they do is they debate and they vote. It's all very organized. They debate and they vote, and there's policy changes and they scenario plan about where things can go in the future. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't think this is what the exercise is getting to. It's getting me to think about the environment that I'm operating in. How does that change? Who changes those rules? So if I go over to the intraday world and I think about, we can start with a plan. We start with the trade plan. I found my target based on, say, a read of the daily report, my assessment of the movers, whatever they might be. I've got my plan. I will take the 3-minute chart because it's set, let's say the WMB3, and you're about to work on it, and you could find yourself in an environment where the open is different to yesterday's open or the day before. And let's say today it's particularly whippy, and you've given yourself an OR opening range box of around the 5 minutes just to get a feel for how big the day is going to be. You could have a whippy start. So you game, you adjust, and it goes deadly quiet for 90 minutes to 2 hours. Deadly quiet, as in smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you have any of the RLCO charts up, your eye starts playing with pinches and super pinches and cool things that you can get involved with. And then the environment can suddenly change on you, and you could end up either with continued quiet, or a almighty breakout, or a tape bomb. I hope you guys don't experience one of those. I've had many. Often my experiences were during Trump's I don't know how I call it. Rain is the word I had in my head, and I was putting it back. But when Trump was around and he would do a tweet, and there would be like a tape bomb that would either take you in, take you out, whatever, depending on which side of the equation you are. Environment shifted. You'd get the algos get involved, so the pace could change, the tempo could change. You get end of quarter, end of month options expiration, different types of characteristics of plays, earnings. So the environment constantly shift. Whoever they are, traders, market makers, institutions, change it all the time. So there are no rule makers. The rule maker in this game for me is me. So again, it's twist, impersonate, blend, adapt. And some of the things that Kuhn was talking about in terms of, that self-talk of, I think you picked it, commend you picked up on yourself by the language you use, which is, I need a win to make back. And so the language is something that you can work on, because that can take you into like revenge territory or forgetting the frame and the point. And I think it was Tom Sullivan who mentioned, it takes me a little bit of time to reset after a loss. And then I think of Ken and Ken's wisdom, eternal wisdom of time, pattern, will, money. If the will's not there, then do whatever you do to reset, because it's your game. You don't have to take the next entry. You don't have to take the stop and reverse. You just have to play your game. So then, does your game fit in the environment as the environment keeps shifting? So then that's the question of this is when Ken's video that he shared with us starts to become really interesting to me, because we are effectively trading the noise as intraday traders. It's always been a belief of mine. And, you know, not all days do we open at the high or the low of the previous day. We can, most of the time, open inside of the range. So one of the questions I'm always asking is, what kind of day could this be? Is it just a day where we go up and tag yesterday's high or tag yesterday's low, or do we end as a doji? Or if the previous day was a doji, is it relevant if we take out yesterday's high or low? Because of course, yesterday was a doji. And what we find, because the environment does what it does, is sometimes those breakouts are as clean as a whistle. Other times you can get a doji, which is followed in the following day by another doji, which can engulf it or be smaller or what have you. So then the gaming and the self-management and the acknowledgement of our own rule set and our respect of our R and our stats and all of that come into play, because it keeps changing. That's what it does. I know I've gone off on one, I'm sorry. Back to the point. So the environment, tweets, tape bombs, whip, dead quiet. And today we're in a bearish market, and it wouldn't surprise me to see price travel down, but the way in which it travels might impact. So the video. So I always know that when I come into these sessions, and I have from a self-awareness standpoint, there's this real, I wouldn't call it an anxiety. It's quite a different stuff. Goes into a book, pen. Ken started talking, he's listening, but he's really listening. And he goes into this deep listening space where Ken is holding the noise, these insights, and he dips in and out of whatever Ken is talking about. Hugely frustrating for me, but it's all good stuff, right? It's a good stuff thing. From my standpoint, when Ken starts talking, as he did on this video, this is my experience from this video, I started getting my own version of agitato. I'm getting anxiety, urgency, like a real urgency. I want to do something. I want to, I'm relating my experience to everything he's talking about. And I thought, just be in the space and listen. I wouldn't call it with a beginner's mind, because the experience is coming in for concept, almost like an MBA. Oh, you've been out in the field something again, and you're respectful of what you're hearing to something new. This would be fair, right? And this is only halfway through this video. God, what's going to happen if I complete it? So here's what started striking me is as Ken was looking at his frame, he's looking at the daily chart on EPAM. Was that the name of the? On EPAM, he's looking at the daily frame, and you'll all recall that he's framing for an intraday entry in the noise, which potentially fill in a little blue circle. And and he wasn't setting any expectations on where it could go beyond that. WMB signals to help. So two things. One, well, actually three things. One, it's actually, so that's one thing. It's a hat tip to, and that's obviously come from Ken's teachings. So I haven't looked at the math or any of that. I've looked at unambiguous move, bounce back, the dragon's out of the river, there's a bit of a gap, if this is going to go some space. So that's first thing. The second thing I think was, I recall that I've often said to anyone that cares to listen that the RLCO is not a system, it is a framework or a lens. But interestingly, I've always used it as an entry and management technique. So in a way, some sort of system, and you just get to choose the ingredients. And I use that intraday. So when I listen to it, thinking, I wouldn't say tactician, a good disciplined trader would this trade, because the MACD is red. We haven't gone into spring. MACD itself hasn't crossed up, for instance. We may have an uptick on the histogram. There is no RLCO crossover. PSAR has not flipped. This is a probe, right? I was aware that I'm like, your technique, he's talking about WB3. And I recall some huge criticism that I've had, which has actually led to some really good learning. But I recall about my, and based on a chart very similar to that. Those were, trend is clearly down. There has been a break. Price has not based. If you squinted, you could draw a box and see a range, and that entry is just front running the break of a range. So where is the probability and risk in this? So I'm okay, why is my head going here when actually we're talking about WMB3 and I trust MB3 and I trust like this. But and intraday standpoint, if I take those criticisms, they've actually helped me with quality trade selection. And what that means is any trade that's been an entry before those very disciplined entries, I treat as tactical, probe, scalp, take the money or move to no lose and see what comes of it. Anything that comes after it, that's orderly, old type, SSC, sniper, whatever, ones issues of this is not a scalp. If this works, it could. I have, as opposed to you had no business entering this trade. On the other ones, I actually business entering this trade. It's a different type of tool. Note, RLCO type language does not exist on the daily in the way that I've been looking at it. But RLCO on the daily in that context was more about levels, potential targets, potential battle draw zones for the adding, and etc., etc. That's where my head went, and I could be wrong, but that's where it went. So that was my first insight. The second key thing, if I haven't missed anything, is one of the conversations Jeff and I have had multiple times this week. We've had them over many years, but it came up this week, and each time I tried to explain what the phenomenon is, I'd get frustrated because it wouldn't be clear, as in, you don't understand, you don't live it, because he doesn't trade the way I trade, he trades the way he trades. And so the frustration is, so if you guys can visualize the EPAM trade frame that Ken had, and there was a lovely, big, thick blue line, and that blue line represented, in my mind, a critical state on a higher time frame that should that break, things could happen. But my own personal experience of those big, thick lines on a higher time frame often end up in lots of trading either side of that line. And so a coping mechanism, a twisting, trying to adapt methodology would then have me Eric put together a timetable or time of day type tendencies, which I know Ken's done and some others along the way. And so in order to not revenge trade, in order to keep my own emotional resilience, in order to give a trade idea a chance and then to step away, set and come back, there were certain times of day where if this is going to move, it could be around whatever those times. So what I said to Jeff was, I need a way of better identifying the time of day where trades that frame on that frame could really, really pay off intraday. So we're talking something beyond a pattern or we're talking about timing. And of course, that's crystal ball territory. And a smaller time frame, and I'm like, when did that breakout actually happen? Let me figure this out, because this is the life that I lead. And that was it 146 or
One
rules that say not trading, but I'm pretty sure I've lived this and I will continue to live this. You can try up until a certain time and you switch, and then you come back and you see that move just happen. And of course, my world, the guys that benefited from that are the ones that were working through lunch and or the swing traders. And you have the same phenomenon if you've got quiet type days and it happens in the gap. So you wake up the following day, the trade that you were framing, it's just life, it's just trading. We just got to get on with it. But it's really interesting that that's what we were talking about. I was like, how do I describe this? How many attempts do you give it? How big a stop do you give it? Are you changing your rules? Are you now changing your tight rules to, your average win, to a slightly looser stop to take into account the environment? And of course, the looser stop doesn't mean position sizing has changed. It just means sometimes I measure it in points. I'm sure I'm losing you guys. I apologize if I am. But I you wouldn't be the first. I've been trying to explain this to him all week. This is my next route. Other thing I wanted to mention was to Tom. Was it Tom? No, it was to Chinlong. Karaman and Tversky have written a book called The Undoing Project. I don't know if you've read it. Was it The Undoing Project? I'm going to find it. But they did an incredible study on things, but there was a relevance on something you said about feeling the Is that right? It was you take your trade, and when it starts to win, there's a bunch of stress around the win. And there's this study around human nature where we are more likely to hold on to humans, right? We're more likely to hold on to a loss longer and wait for it to come back or make back or revenge or whatever than we are to hold on to a winner and be rewarded. And they all the science, so you don't have to listen to the woo-woo chick. They've done all the science, clinical trials and all the trade testing around that concept. So it's really worth finding. I'll find that book if Ken hasn't already, and I'll to you guys. Right. So the other I had was a throwaway comment by Ken, and he said, and this is when it gets really fun. You were pointing out, Ken, you were pointing out some of the large down days on your frame. And I was remembering and I was thinking, I forget. I mean, I have fun when I'm in the room and I'm chatting with the guys. But if I'm thinking about my trading, I'm not having fun because my mindset is in a place of work, even though I know it's a game and I'm whatever. And I don't know what that's. It's like that's when you have fun. And when there's this tension, anxiety, I'm just gonna, I can't express it, so I'm just gonna pop. the same thing happens when you're in a trade that's really starting to work. And you'll recall that we had these lessons where I had a wheelbarrow with bricks in, and I'm like, yeah, it's working, and I put another brick in, and I'm traveling along with the RL10, and the RL30's got my back, and it's got my back, and all of that. And there's a moment of like, you're not having the fun because it's now too much, so you dump it out, or you dump it all out and you take your profit, or and yeah, so I was really envious when I heard him say that. I was like, God, we're having fun. But Messi was having fun. Did you see that? Did you see that game yesterday with Argentina? Who did they?
Australia.
Oh, sorry, Luke, if you're watching this, I was voting for you guys. But Messi, after he got his second goal, I saw him relax, and I saw him start to have fun in that. So anyway, I know this one was all over the place. I've obviously got some lessons coming. So Ken, as ever, thank you. I do realize that I trade very similar to how you framed and those little boxes. That pretty up there to explain why I do what I do. But I don't know if you go. One of the things that Ken talks about is have moved out of the river. One of the things a lesson that's always stuck with me is that when the dragon comes out the river, it always wants to go back in. And there was a huge gap between from the point he entered to the point where the river edge was. And then you got your PSR and your RL90 and all the rest of it. And dutifully, we had a look to see what actually happened after the event. And the dragon did return with the price and all the rest of it. And happy days. Anyway, I should stop. So thank you for bearing with me, everyone. Probably gone over Ken's timeline here. I hope.
Tom Hardison. I got about 10 minutes before a hard out.
Yeah. So gamer, to me was a frame of mind. And the first instruction was to operationalize everything we've been learning. And so what my big takeaway from the video, lots of tools, lots of ways to look at it, wonderful reminders and refinements of things. Some I've heard, some I haven't heard before, although I know Ken said them many times. And so the big aha was a state of mind. What I take away from watching Ken is his state of mind is rarely need to be right. It is almost always a state of curiosity and learning and considering what's possible. And then considering, well, what would I do? This is possible. And that he starts everything with that kind of, well, what's possible? What could happen? And how would I go about it? And to try to frame it, to try to explore it, and not need to be right. Be able to manage risk. Very important. So that one trade doesn't take you out and you can't trade again. I hope.
I'm gonna hit the gongs and get the one words quick before I forget, and then I'll finish up with a couple remarks. Word of the day, Chunlong.
Surrender.
Ernie.
Epiphany.
Sunol.
Speechless now, eh?
Speechless.
That's a new one. Jeff.
Corporate.
Hey, say that one again. You got garbled.
Sorry, Spielplatz, because it incorporates fun.
Tom Hardison.
Curiosity.
Tom Sullivan.
Framing.
Kyun.
Play.
Let's see here. Where's my chat? Here's my notes. I'll get these posted. Oops. Copy. Well, it's not wanting me paste. Come on. I don't know. We'll get it. I'll get you the notes. Yeah, I know what you feel like, Chinlong, with the that dream. The dream I had about priming the brain and creating the conditions of popcorn was. I had. It took me an hour to write down what I saw in an instant in that dream, and I sent that to Fletcher. And it's going to be the basis of a presentation I make at the Quantum Storytelling Conference in mid-December out in Las Cruces, New Mexico, with David Bogie, and we'll see what comes up out of that. But I really think it was the idea of saturating the brain and priming it is huge. I was reminded of it when I heard a story about a guy who was saying, "Look, the American dream, when he was, his dad did not keep chasing his dream. He just kind of went to work, took care of the family because they were immigrants, bought a house, built equity, had a retirement, passed on something of value. And now, 50 years later, everybody's got triple leverage mortgages on multiple houses and flipping and no retirements. And we've just gone from saturated with enduring wealth and assets to revolving credit swaps and trying to stay in a position of relative advantage against all the other debtors, and that pendulum has moved slowly but inexorably towards the ownership class, the oligarchs and all that. So I was reminded of a brain that is enriched with all these positive feelings of creativity and support from the culture in the team. And still, you do see Messi relaxing after he scored his goal in the World Cup as a way to just, dude, finally, my legacy, we can just stop worrying about that, and I can just be Leo Messi. And for me, that goes right back to my dream that when Messi is facing somebody one-on-one, he's got four choices, and he just has to pick one. I'm going to go to your left, to your right, over your head, or through your legs. And I can pick whichever one I want. But when five guys surround him, he actually has more fun because now he's got 4 times 5 plus in the space he's got like 25 different options, and still none of them can get the ball off him. But he also knows that outside of that tactical frame, because there's 5 on him, that means the other 10 guys on his team only have 5 defenders. So the more players that come to him to try to trap him, actually the better it is for him and for his team, because they can't get the ball, and he's got twice as many people that are wide open, and the game is going to proceed. So that's sort of a different way to frame space on the soccer field. Now you watch those guys play and take a wide angle view and always look for who is the open player and how fast do they get it to him. And then what you'll see is they realize where the open player is going to be in the open space, and they play the ball to the space where the guy is going to be open, and they lead him into that space, and then the ball and the player meet. That's where the game is really beautiful. And you see when they decide to make that pass over the top to the guy who's going to run into space, and that's where the telepathy occurs, is they both see the space that I'm going to run into, but I haven't run into it yet. I watched Francesco Totti do that when Roma came over to play the MLS All-Stars. And they had a play where the right back had gone deep, pulled back and into the center, the outside right winger pulled back and drew the defender with him into the middle of the field, while the outside right back was then going to make that run into the space that was vacated. And Totti saw all that happening and then hit a 50-yard ball into the space for them to shoot and score, because they were creating space for each other with movement off the ball. And so when you start watching the game and making those connections, that's what it's like when your brain is primed. It's like microwave popcorn that starts popping at 45 seconds when it's time to, where you want to be is always saturating your brain so that you're at 40 seconds, having received all that microwave energy. You look at the bag of popcorn, it still hasn't popped yet, but there's a world of difference between a bag of popcorn that's been in the microwave for 0 seconds and for 40 seconds. Something is going to happen out of that critical state. And so you got to learn how to detect that the bag of popcorn or the trade or the doji is in a critical state. So when you can identify those critical states, things like EPAM just naturally happen because they do. There was something in that precondition that installed all of that potential energy just waiting to become kinetic energy, waiting on the trigger. And what is the trigger that releases the doji? What is the thing that convinces the gem cutter that the diamond is now ready to come out of the diamond in the rough? What is the essence in that moment that says this is loaded with all of these? That to me is what is behind the compound critical state, which is, I think, the biggest idea in 10 years or so. So that's where we're heading. All right, that's everything I got. I'm going to hit the tone. I'm going to leave the room open for you guys to talk if you need to, but I got to get over there in like 7 minutes. It's a 6-minute drive, and if I'm not there in 7 minutes, I'm going to have a gang of little kids mad at me, and I'm moving slow because of my bad knee. So that's what it's like sometimes. That's just what it's like. You guys take good care. Always good to see you. I'll get this published. But hey, the videos from last night, I got 2 of them to upload. One is a review of Ken Hum's trade frames, and then the second one was a larger discussion, sort of spontaneous. It's amazing. I just haven't finished processing yet, but I'm going to send you that note. All you swing traders absolutely need to listen to that, because I'm talking about the 9-day frame, the 9-day bar and the PSAR, plus assembling a portfolio. It was really, really good. So look forward to that. Take good care, guys, and go England. Sorry, Luke.
Yeah. Do you have, if you've got one